The chrome was cold enough to burn skin, and the boy's fingers were already blue where they gripped the rear fender of the '78 Shovelhead, like it was the last solid thing in a world gone liquid and dark. Diesel found him at 4:47 in the morning, outside the Crossroads diner where the Brotherhood had been drinking coffee and watching the rain turn the highway into black glass. The kid couldn't have been more than 8, maybe 9, wearing a Transformers t-shirt 3 sizes too big and jeans with holes that weren't fashion. No jacket, no shoes. Just shivering so hard his teeth made a sound like dice in a cup, and when Diesel's shadow fell across him, the boy didn't run. He looked up with eyes that had already seen too much road, too many miles of nowhere, and he said 4 words that would crack open everything Diesel thought he knew about the ride he'd been on for 33 years. My dad's name was Reaper. Wait, before the next ride begins. If this story already hit you right in the chest, tell us where you're watching from. To ride with the Brotherhood through the next promise, loss, or redemption, subscribe and join the club. Engines up, back to the road. The rain had stopped an hour ago, but the air still tasted like wet asphalt and diesel fuel. Inside the Crossroads, 7 members of the Sacramento charter sat in the back booth, the same booth they'd claimed every Thursday night for the past decade. Cole was telling a story about a run to Reno that had gone sideways when a prospect forgot to check his oil. Hawk was laughing, showing the gap where a tooth used to be before a bar fight in Bakersfield. Mason was quiet, like always, rolling a toothpick from one side of his mouth to the other, watching the door. Diesel had stepped out to smoke. Not because he needed the nicotine. He'd quit 3 years ago when his daughter asked him to. But because sometimes a man needs to stand in the aftermath of rain and remember what silence sounds like. The parking lot was empty, except for the bikes, 8 of them lined up like soldiers, all chrome and black leather and the kind of loyalty that doesn't need words. That's when he saw the boy. At first, Diesel thought it was a dog, something small and desperate, huddled against the back tire of his Shovelhead. Then the shape moved, and moonlight caught on pale skin, on hair plastered dark with rain or sweat or fear. Diesel's boots made no sound on the wet pavement. The MC patch on his back, the winged death's head, the California rocker, the name that had been his for longer than his baptismal one, felt suddenly heavy. "Kid?" Diesel said, and his voice came out rougher than he meant. "You lost?" The boy's head snapped up. His eyes were green, bright as traffic lights in a face too thin, too sharp. He didn't answer, just pressed himself harder against the bike, like he could disappear into the metal if he tried hard enough. Diesel crouched down, slow and careful. He'd been a father once. Still was, technically, though his daughter was 22 now and called him by his given name when she bothered to call at all. He knew how to make himself smaller, less threatening, knew the tone that said, "I'm not going to hurt you," without saying the words that would sound like a lie. "It's okay," Diesel said. "Nobody's going to hurt you here." The boy's shivering got worse. His lips were purple at the edges. Diesel shrugged out of his leather jacket, the one with the patches that told the story of 33 years on the road, the colors that meant family, the skull and wings that meant forever, and draped it around the kid's shoulders. It swallowed him whole, made him look even smaller. "My dad's name was Reaper," the boy said again, and this time his voice cracked on the word was. Diesel felt something cold slide down his spine that had nothing to do with the November air. Reaper. Johnny Reaper Madsen, Sacramento charter, full patch member for 18 years. Died 6 months ago when a semi-driver fell asleep at the wheel outside of Fresno and crossed 3 lanes of highway without braking. The club had buried him in his colors, had poured whiskey on his grave, had burned his cut and scattered the ashes on Highway 1 because that's what Johnny wanted. His bike had gone to his younger brother in Portland, his tools had gone to the clubhouse, his debts had been paid, his locker cleaned out, his name added to the memorial wall in the chapel, where the brothers gathered on cold Sunday mornings to remember the ones who'd written ahead. Nobody had mentioned a son. "Your name?" Diesel asked, though his throat had gone trite. "Wyatt." "Wyatt Madsen?" The boy nodded, and something in Diesel's chest cracked clean in half. The door to the diner banged open and Cole stepped out, leather vest dark with old rain, beard wet at the tips. He saw Diesel crouched in the parking lot, saw the kid wrapped in Diesel's jacket, and his whole body went still in the way that meant he was reading the situation, calculating threats and outcomes like he used to calculate angles and distances back when he was a sniper in the Marines. Cool's voice was quiet, controlled. "We got a problem?" "Not a problem," Diesel said. "A question." He stood up, joints cracking, and pulled the boy gently to his feet. The kid came without resistance, like he'd given up on fighting or running or hoping for anything better than whatever came next. Diesel kept one hand on his shoulder, the touch light, protective, and walked him toward the diner entrance. The other brothers looked up when they came in. Conversation died like someone had cut the engine.
7 pairs of eyes tracked the small figure in the oversized jacket, taking in the bare feet, the bruises on his shins, the way he held himself like he was ready to bolt, but too tired to actually run. "Anybody know Reaper had a kid?" Diesel asked the room. Silence. Then Mason pulled the toothpick from his mouth and said, "Johnny never mentioned family, not once. He had a sister in Sacramento," Hawk offered, testified at his funeral. "Jennifer, Fink, worked at the DMV. Ex-wife and Modesto," Cole added, "but they split before he patched in. No kids that I heard about." Diesel looked down at Wyatt, who was staring the floor like if he looked hard enough he might fall through it and disappear. "Where's your mom, Wyatt?" The boy's fingers tightened on the jacket. "Gone." "Gone where?" "Just gone." His voice was small and hard at the same time, like a stone worn smooth by a river that wouldn't stop running. 3 weeks ago. Left me at Aunt Jenny's." "But Aunt Jenny..." He swallowed. "She didn't want me. Said she couldn't. Said I reminded her too much of him." Diesel felt anger rising in his chest, hot and tight. He forced it down, kept his voice level. "So where you been sleeping, kid?" "Wherever." "Wherever." "Bus stops. Behind the Safeway. There's a spot under the overpass where the rain doesn't..." Wyatt's voice broke. He bit his lip, hard enough that Diesel saw blood. Cole stood up, chair scraping loud against linoleum. He moved around the table with the deliberate care of a man who'd seen combat, who'd held dying brothers in his arms and learned that sometimes the most important thing you could do was just be there. He crouched down in front of Wyatt, eye to eye, and his voice when he spoke was gentler than Diesel had ever heard it. "You hungry, brother?" Wyatt nodded. Quick and small. "How about we get you some food? Then we figure out what comes next." They fed him. Pancakes, eggs, bacon, orange juice, toast with strawberry jam.
Wyatt ate like he was trying to swallow the whole world. Like if he stopped even for a second, the food might disappear and he'd wake up under the overpass with nothing but cold concrete and the sound of traffic overhead. The brothers watched in silence, passing glances that carried entire conversations. Mason ordered more coffee. Hawk pushed his own untouched plate across the table. Cole called Bishop, the charter president, and spoke in low tones near the jukebox. Diesel sat across from Wyatt and tried to remember the last time he'd seen Johnny Madsen. It had been at a run to Sturgis, maybe 2 years back. They'd shared a motel room in South Dakota, had stayed up late drinking Jim Beam and talking about the kind of nothing that means everything. Old rides, old friends, the way the highway looked different depending on whether you were running from something or running toward it. Johnny had been quiet that trip. Diesel remembered that now. Quiet in a way that wasn't peaceful, that felt more like a man holding something heavy and trying not to let it show. Had he known about Wyatt then? Had he been carrying the weight of a son he couldn't claim, couldn't protect, couldn't figure out how to love without destroying everything he'd built? When Wyatt finally pushed his plate away, there was color in his cheeks for the first time. His shivering had stopped. He looked at Diesel with those 2 bright eyes and asked, "Did you know my dad?" "Yeah," Diesel said. "I knew him." "Was he..." Wyatt hesitated. "Was he a good person?" The question hung in the air like smoke. Around the table, brothers shifted. Nobody spoke. Because the truth was complicated, and Johnny Madsen had been complicated, and the life they all lived existed in shades of gray that didn't translate to words like good or bad. Finally, Cole leaned forward. "Your dad was loyal.
He had brothers who would have died for him, and he would have died for us. That's worth something in this world.
"He left me," Wyatt said, and the words came out flat and final. "He didn't even tell anyone I existed." Diesel's jaw tightened. He wanted to defend Johnny, wanted to find some explanation that would make sense of the silence, the secrecy, the way a man could ride with brothers for 18 years and never mention the son who carried his name. But there was no defense. There was only the truth, sharp and cruel. Johnny Madsen had made choices, and Wyatt had paid the price. "Sometimes," Diesel said carefully, "people mess up, especially people like us. We spend so much time on the road, we forget how to come home." "He never came home," Wyatt said. "Not once that I remember." The diner door opened and Bishop walked in. He was 58, built like a fire hydrant, with a gray beard that reached his chest and eyes that had seen every kind of road this life offered. He'd been president of the Sacramento charter for 12 years, and before that, he'd been a long-haul trucker. Before that, a boxer. Before that, a kid from Oakland who'd learned early that family was something you chose, not something you were born into. He walked straight to the booth and looked down at Wyatt. His face was hard, weathered like old leather, but his voice was gentle. "Heard you've been having a rough time, kid." Wyatt didn't answer. Bishop pulled up a chair, turned it backward, and sat down heavy. "Here's what's going to happen. We're going to make some calls, figure out your situation, see if we can track down your mom or find some family that actually gives a damn. But tonight, you're not sleeping under any bridge. You got that?" "Where am I supposed to sleep?" Bishop looked at Diesel. Diesel looked at the ceiling, then back to Wyatt. He thought about his apartment, the spare bedroom that still had his daughter's old posters on the walls, the bed that hadn't been slept in since she moved out 4 years ago. He thought about the promises he'd made to Johnny at the funeral. "See you on the other side, brother," and how hollow those words felt now. "You'll stay with me," Diesel said, "just for tonight, until we figure this out." Wyatt's eyes went wide. "I don't want to be a problem." "Too late," Diesel said, but he was smiling when he said it. "You're already a problem. Might as well be a problem with a roof over your head." They rode in Cole's truck because there was no way Diesel was putting a barefoot 8-year-old on the back of a shovelhead at 5 in the morning. The other brothers peeled off one by one, engines rumbling to life, headlights cutting through the darkness as they headed home to wives and girlfriends and empty apartments. Hawk gave Wyatt a fist bump before he left. Mason handed him a stick of gum. Bishop said, "We'll talk tomorrow," and the weight in those words made it clear this wasn't over, wasn't even close to starting. Cole drove in silence, radio off, windshield wipers squeaking against glass that was already dry. Wyatt sat in the back seat, still wrapped in Diesel's jacket, staring out the window at the city sliding past. Diesel rode shotgun and watched the kid in the rearview mirror, trying to see Johnny in the shape of his face, the set of his jaw. The resemblance was there, faint but undeniable. Same narrow nose, same way of holding tension in his shoulders like armor. "Your old man ever talk about his dad?" Cole asked quietly, eyes on the road. "Sometimes," Diesel said. "Said he was mean, drunk, used his fists more than his words." Cole nodded slowly. Cycle repeats. "Not if we break it." "We?" Diesel didn't answer. He wasn't sure what "we" meant yet. Wasn't sure what he was signing up for. All he knew was that the kid in the back seat was alone, and alone was a cold place to be. And sometimes, the only thing that mattered was making sure one more person didn't freeze in the dark. They pulled up outside Diesel's building, a 3-story walk-up in a neighborhood that used to be rough but was slowly gentrifying. Coffee shops replacing check-cashing places, yoga studios where liquor stores used to be. Diesel lived on the 2nd floor, apartment 2B, the same place he'd been renting for 9 years. Cole helped Wyatt out of the truck and walked them to the door, hand on Diesel's shoulder for just a second, a gesture that said, "I'm here if you need me," without needing to say it out loud. Inside, the apartment was exactly what you'd expect from a man who lived alone and worked 60 hours a week at an auto shop. Dishes in the sink, mail on the counter, a couch with a permanent indentation where Diesel sat every night watching whatever game was on. but it was clean, mostly, and warm, and when Wyatt stepped inside, he stopped shivering for the first time since Diesel had found him. "Bathroom's down the hall," Diesel said. "There's soap, towels, whatever you need. You know how to work a shower?" Wyatt nodded. "Go clean up. I'll find you something to sleep in." The kid disappeared down the hallway, and Diesel stood in his living room, listening to the water run, trying to process what the hell had just happened. 6 hours ago, he'd been drinking coffee and listening to Cole tell stories. Now he had a dead brother's son in his shower, and no idea what came next. He pulled out his phone and stared at it for a long moment. Then he called Bishop. The president answered on the second ring. "Yeah? We need to talk about this," Diesel said. "I know. Kid's got nobody. His aunt dumped him. His mom's gone. Johnny's dead. What are we supposed to do?" Bishop was quiet for a beat. Then, "What do you want to do?" "I don't know." "Yes, you do." Diesel closed his eyes. He thought about the way Wyatt had looked at him in the parking lot, desperate and hopeful and already bracing for disappointment.
He thought about Johnny, about all the rides they'd taken together, all the times Johnny had watched his back, pulled him out of bad situations, been there when it mattered. He thought about what it meant to be a brother, really be one, not just wear the patch, but live the code. "We take care of our own," Diesel said finally. "Yeah," Bishop agreed. "We do. Even when our own screwed up?" "Especially then." Wyatt came out of the bathroom wearing a pair of Diesel sweatpants, rolled up 6 times at the ankles, and an old Harley-Davidson t-shirt that hung on him like a dress. His hair was wet and dark, plastered to his skull, and his face was scrubbed clean enough that Diesel could see the freckles across his nose, the faint scar above his right eyebrow. "Feel better?" Diesel asked. "Yeah." "You want to talk about what happened? How you ended up at the diner?" Wyatt shook his head, quick and sharp. "Okay, we don't have to. But eventually we're going to need to know some things, like where your mom went, if you got any other family, if there's anyone looking for you." "Nobody's looking for me," Wyatt said, and the certainty in his voice was worse than any tears could have been. Diesel showed him to the spare bedroom, the one that still smelled faintly of his daughter's old perfume, that still had posters of bands that hadn't been popular in a decade. The bed was made, sheets clean, because Diesel's ex-wife had taught him that much before she left, before she decided that loving a man in a motorcycle club was too hard, too dangerous, too much like loving a ghost. "This is yours," Diesel said. "For tonight, for however long you need it." Wyatt climbed into bed, still wearing the oversized clothes, and pulled the blankets up to his chin. He looked impossibly small, impossibly young. Diesel stood in the doorway, one hand on the light switch, and tried to remember if he'd ever felt this out of his depth. "Diesel?" Wyatt's voice was tiny in the darkness.
"Yeah, kid? Did my dad ever talk about me?" The lie would have been easy. Of course he did, all the time. He loved you. But Diesel had spent 33 years learning that easy lies were the kind that came back to bite you, that destroyed trust faster than any truth could. "No," Diesel said. "He didn't. But that doesn't mean he didn't think about you. Sometimes people keep the things that matter most locked up so tight, they can't figure out how to let them out." Wyatt was quiet for a long time. Then, "Do you have kids?" "A daughter. She's grown now." "Do you talk about her?" "Not as much as I should." "Why not?" Diesel leaned against the doorframe, feeling the weight of the question. "Because I'm scared, I guess. Scared I wasn't good enough. Scared she'll figure out all the ways I failed her. Scared that if I talk about her too much, I'll have to face how much I miss her." "That's stupid," Wyatt said, and Diesel laughed despite himself. "Yeah," he agreed. "It really is." He turned off the light and closed the door halfway, leaving it open just enough that Wyatt wouldn't wake up in complete darkness. Then he walked back to the living room, poured himself 2 fingers of bourbon he didn't really want, and sat down on the couch with his phone in his hand. He pulled up his daughter's contact, stared at her name, Sarah, and the photo she'd sent him 3 Christmases ago, her smiling in front of a Christmas tree in the apartment she shared with her boyfriend in Seattle. He typed out a message. "Hey kiddo, hope you're doing good.
Miss you. He stared at it for 5 minutes. Then he deleted it and put the phone down. Some bridges, once burned, didn't get rebuilt. Some distances couldn't be crossed, no matter how much you wanted to. All you could do was try to make sure the next generation didn't make the same mistakes, didn't wake up one day and realize they'd let the people who mattered slip away, while they were busy riding toward nothing.
Diesel finished his bourbon and lay down on the couch, still dressed, boots still on. He listened to the sound of the apartment settling, the distant hum of traffic, the ghost of Wyatt's breathing from the other room. And somewhere in the small hours before dawn, he fell asleep thinking about all the ways a man could fail at being a father, and all the ways he might still get a chance to make it right. Morning came too early and too bright. Diesel woke to the smell of coffee he hadn't made and the sound of movement in his kitchen. He sat up, head pounding slightly from too little sleep and too much thinking, and found Wyatt standing at the counter, pouring coffee into 2 mugs. "You know how to make coffee?" Diesel asked, voice rough with sleep. "Mom taught me," Wyatt said, "before she got bad." "Bad? How?" Wyatt didn't answer. He just handed Diesel a mug and sat down at the small kitchen table, folding his hands in front of him like he was waiting for judgment or instructions or whatever came next. He was still wearing Diesel's 2 large clothes, still looked like a kid playing dress-up, but there was something old in his eyes, something that had seen too much too soon. Diesel drank his coffee and studied the boy. In the morning light, the resemblance to Johnny was even stronger. Same sharp cheekbones, same way of sitting perfectly still, like movement might give something away. "We're gonna go to the clubhouse today," Diesel said. "Talk to Bishop and some of the other brothers. Figure out what your situation is, legally speaking. See if we can track down your mom, find out if there's family that can take you in." "I told you there's nobody." "Maybe, but we gotta check. We gotta do this right." "What if they take me away?" The fear in Wyatt's voice was raw and real, and Diesel felt it like a punch to the gut. "Take you where?" "Foster care, group homes. I've heard about those places. Kids disappear in those places."
"Nobody's gonna let you disappear," Diesel said firmly. "You got my word on that." "Your word doesn't mean anything," Wyatt said, and the bluntness of it was shocking. "I don't even know you. You're just some guy my dad rode motorcycles with." Diesel set his mug down carefully. He could have gotten angry, could have sent the kid packing, called social services, washed his hands of the whole situation. But instead he leaned forward, elbows on the table, and looked Wyatt straight in the eye. "You're right," he said. "You don't know me. But here's what I know. Your dad was my brother. Not by blood, but by choice. And in this life, that choice means something. It means when one of us falls, the rest of us pick up what they dropped. It means we don't leave people behind. It means we take care of our own, even when it's hard, even when it doesn't make sense." "He left me behind," Wyatt said. "He dropped me, and nobody picked me up." "Yeah," Diesel agreed. "He did, and that was wrong. But we're here now, and we're going to make it right. That's what brothers do." Wyatt stared at him for a long moment, searching his face for lies, for cracks, for any sign that this was just another empty promise from another adult who would disappear when things got hard. Whatever he saw must have satisfied something, because he nodded slowly and said, "Okay." "Okay," Diesel echoed. They finished their coffee in silence. Then Diesel found a pair of his old sneakers that were too big but better than nothing, cinched them tight with the laces, and they headed out to face whatever came next. The Sacramento clubhouse sat on 2 acres of gravel and scrub grass on the eastern edge of town, a low-slung building made of cinder block and corrugated metal that looked like it had been built to survive the apocalypse. The parking lot was half full when they arrived, bikes lined up in neat rows, the morning sun glinting off chrome and steel. Diesel parked his truck next to Cole's old Ford and killed the engine.
"You ready?" he asked Wyatt. The boy nodded, but his knuckles were white where he gripped the door handle. Inside, the clubhouse was exactly what it had always been, a place built for brotherhood, for drinking and planning and remembering. The main room held a long wooden bar, pool tables, a wall covered in photographs of members past and present. There was a memorial corner where patches and photos of the dead hung like relics in a church. Diesel saw Johnny's picture there, frozen in time, grinning at the camera with a beer in his hand at some run in Nevada.
Bishop sat at the head of the table in the chapel, the private room where they held church, made decisions, voted on prospects. Cole was there, and Hawk, and Mason. 3 other brothers Diesel recognized. Knox, a mechanic who could fix anything with wheels. Trace, who'd done time for something nobody talked about. And Ryder, the road captain who planned every run with military precision. They all looked up when Diesel and Wyatt walked in. "This is Wyatt," Diesel said simply. "Johnny's son." The brothers studied the boy with the kind of attention that would have made most people uncomfortable. But these were men who'd learned to read situations fast, to assess threats and allies and everything in between. What they saw was a scared kid trying not to show it, a ghost of a brother they'd buried, and a problem that needed solving. Bishop gestured to an empty chair. "Sit down, Wyatt." Wyatt sat. Diesel stood behind him, one hand on the back of the chair, a protective gesture that wasn't lost on anyone in the room. "I'm gonna be straight with you, kid," Bishop said. "We did some digging last night, called some people, found some information." Wyatt's shoulders tensed. "Your mom is Lisa Carver. She and Johnny were together about 10 years ago, never married. She's got a history, drugs mostly, meth. In and out of rehab 3 times.
3 weeks ago, she checked into a facility in Reading. Court-ordered, 90-day program. That's where she is now. 3 weeks ago, she checked into a facility in Reading. Court-ordered, 90-day program. That's where she is now." "Is she okay?" Wyatt's voice was small. "She's alive," Bishop said, "and she's trying. But right now, she can't take care of you. Won't be able to for at least 2 more months, probably longer." "What about the aunt?" Cole asked. "Jennifer?" "Called her this morning," Bishop said. "She made it real clear she wants nothing to do with the situation. Said she barely knew Johnny, hasn't seen the kid in years, can't take him in." "Cold," Hawk muttered. "Reality," Bishop corrected. "People got their own problems. Can't force someone to be family." "So what happens now?" Diesel asked. Bishop leaned back in his chair, the leather creaking. "Legally, kid's got 2 options, foster care or a family member willing to take him in. Since there's no family stepping up, that leaves foster care, unless," he looked directly at Diesel, "unless one of us steps in." The room went quiet. Everyone knew what that meant, what it would require. The background checks, the home visits, the questions about lifestyle and income, and whether a member of an outlaw motorcycle club was a suitable guardian for a child. "I can't," Cole said, and there was regret in his voice. "I'm on parole. They'd never approve me." "I got priors," Knox admitted, "assault charges from way back." "Me too," Trace added. Mason just shook his head. "I live in a studio apartment above the shop, barely got room for myself." One by one, the brothers eliminated themselves, and Diesel felt the weight of it settling on his shoulders like a leather cut that suddenly weighed 1,000 pounds. "What about you, D?" Bishop asked quietly. Diesel looked down at Wyatt, who was staring at the table, trying to disappear into himself. He thought about his apartment, his job at the auto shop, the life he'd built that was simple and solitary and safe.
He thought about his daughter, about all the ways he'd failed her, all the chances he'd missed to be the father she deserved. He thought about Johnny, about the brotherhood, about what it meant to live by a code that said you took care of your own. "I'll do it," Diesel said. "I'll take him in." Wyatt's head snapped up, eyes wide. "You sure about this?" Bishop asked. "This ain't temporary. This is full custody, at least until his mom gets clean and can prove she's stable. Could be months, could be years, could be forever." "I'm sure," Diesel said. And the strange thing was, he meant it. Bishop nodded slowly. "All right, we'll make it happen. I got a lawyer who owes me a favor. We'll file the paperwork, get the process started. In the meantime, Wyatt stays with you, off the books. We'll say he's extended family visiting. Nobody needs to know different until we're ready." "What do I need to do?" Diesel asked. "Be a father," Bishop said simply. "Rest will figure itself out." The next 3 weeks moved in a blur of paperwork and phone calls and meetings with lawyers who looked at Diesel like he was insane. The club rallied. Knox donated a bed and a dresser from his garage. Cole's old lady brought over clothes her nephew had outgrown, jeans and shirts and a jacket that actually fit.
Hawk showed up with a backpack full of school supplies and a laptop that was old but functional. Mason found a bike shop that donated a used BMX so Wyatt could ride to school once they got him enrolled. Through it all, Wyatt stayed quiet. He ate breakfast with Diesel every morning, eggs and toast and coffee that was probably too strong for an 8-year-old, but the kid never complained. He did his homework at the kitchen table while Diesel fixed dinner. He helped clean the apartments on Saturdays, took out the trash without being asked, learned to fold his own laundry. But he didn't smile, didn't laugh. Carried himself like someone waiting for the other shoe to drop, for the world to prove once again that good things didn't last. Diesel tried. God, he tried. He took Wyatt to the movies, to the arcade, to the park where they threw a football around until Diesel's shoulders started aching. He talked about Johnny, shared stories from the road, tried to paint a picture of a man who'd been more than his mistakes. But Wyatt listened with that same guarded expression, never quite believing, never quite letting his walls come down. Then came the night everything changed. It was late October, 3 weeks after Wyatt had shown up shivering beside Diesel's bike. They were sitting at the kitchen table, Wyatt working on math homework while Diesel paid bills. The TV was on low in the background, some cop show Diesel wasn't really watching. Outside, rain hammered against the windows, the kind of cold autumn storm that made you grateful for 4 walls and a roof. Wyatt's pencil stopped moving. He stared down at his worksheet, jaw tight, and then suddenly he threw the pencil across the room, hard enough that it ricocheted off the wall. "Wyatt, I can't do this," the boy's voice cracked, loud and raw. "I don't understand any of it. I'm stupid. I'm so stupid." "You're not stupid," Diesel said firmly. "You're just behind. That's different." "I don't belong here." Wyatt stood up, knocking his chair backward. His face was red, eyes shining with tears he was fighting not to shed. "I don't belong in that school with those kids who have parents and houses and normal lives. I don't belong in your apartment. I don't belong anywhere." "That's not true." "Yes, it is," Wyatt shouted. "My mom didn't want me. My dad pretended I didn't exist. My aunt dumped me like garbage. Nobody wants me. Nobody ever wanted me." Diesel stood up slowly, hands out, the same gesture he used with spooked horses or scared dogs. "Easy, easy. I'm not gonna hurt you. I want you here." "No, you don't." "You just feel guilty because my dad was your brother. You just took me in because it was the right thing to do, according to your stupid code. But you don't actually want me. Nobody does." The words hung in the air like smoke, sharp and bitter. Diesel felt them hit, felt the truth in them, the guilt, the obligation, the sense that he was doing this for Johnny more than for the kid himself. But he also felt something else, something that had been growing slowly over the past 3 weeks, quiet as grass pushing through concrete. He thought about the way Wyatt had started leaving his bedroom door open at night, the way he'd asked Diesel to teach him how to change a tire, the way he'd laughed, actually laughed, when they watched a comedy together last weekend, just for a moment, just enough to show that the kid inside was still alive under all that armor. "You're right," Diesel said, and Wyatt's eyes went wide with shock. "When I first found you, it was about obligation, about doing what I thought Johnny would have wanted, what the club expected. But that was 3 weeks ago." So things change. People change. Diesel moved around the table, slow and careful. "I'll be honest with you, Wyatt. I'm not good at this. I wasn't a great father to my own daughter. I worked too much, drank too much, put the club before her too many times. She barely talks to me now, and I don't blame her. But with you," he paused, searching for words that felt true. "With you, I get another chance. A chance to do better, be better. You don't owe me anything." "I know, but maybe that's the point. Maybe the best things we do aren't because we owe someone. They're because we choose to. And I choose this. I choose you." Wyatt's face crumpled. He tried to hold it together, tried to keep the walls up, but they were already cracking. Tears spilled down his cheeks, and he made a sound, half sob,
half-gasp that broke something in Diesel's chest. "Come here," Diesel said softly.
Wyatt shook his head, backing away. "Come here, kid." And then Wyatt was moving, fast and desperate, crashing into Diesel's chest like a wave against rocks. He wrapped his arms around Diesel's waist and buried his face in his shirt and cried in a way that sounded like years of held-back grief finally finding a way out. Diesel held him, one hand on the back of his head, and let him shake and sob and release all the poison that had been building up since the day his father died without acknowledging him, since the day his mother chose drugs over her son, since every day he'd spent wondering why he wasn't enough to make anyone stay. "I got you," Diesel said quietly. "I got you, brother. You're safe. You're home." And in that moment, standing in his kitchen with rain pounding outside and a broken kid in his arms, Diesel understood what Bishop had meant, what it really meant to be a father. Not the biological fact of it, not the legal paperwork or the blood relation, but the choice. The decision to show up day after day, even when it was hard, even when you didn't know what you were doing. The promise to be there, to mean something, to be the wall that didn't fall when the world tried to knock it down. They stood there for a long time, until Wyatt's sobs quieted to hiccups, until his grip loosened and he pulled back, wiping his face with the back of his hand. "Sorry," he mumbled. "Don't be. I got your shirt wet. It's just water. It'll dry." Diesel crouched down so they were eye to eye. "Listen to me. You belong here. Right here. In this apartment. In this life. With me. And I know you don't believe that yet, but I'm going to prove it to you. Every single day, I'm going to prove it." Wyatt nodded, not quite convinced, but maybe starting to hope. "Now," Diesel said, standing up, "let's figure out this math homework together, and if we can't figure it out, we'll call Knox. He's good with numbers." Wyatt managed a small smile. "Really? Really?"
One thing you're going to learn about this family, we don't do anything alone. We got brothers for every problem, every question, every moment we need backup. That's what we are. That's what you are now. They sat back down at the table. Diesel pulled the worksheet over and stared at the fractions like they were written in a foreign language. "Okay," he admitted, "I got no idea how to do this. We're definitely calling Knox." Wyatt laughed, actually laughed, and it was the best sound Diesel had heard in years. By Thanksgiving, things had started to settle into something that almost resembled normal. Diesel had gotten Wyatt enrolled in school, 4th grade at Madison Elementary. The teacher, Mrs. Chen, was patient and understanding when Diesel explained the situation. Mother in rehab, father deceased, emergency custody with a family friend. She didn't ask about the motorcycle club, didn't mention the leather vest Diesel wore when he dropped Wyatt off every morning. She just nodded and said, "We'll help him catch up." Wyatt was behind in reading and math, but he was smart. He absorbed information like a sponge absorbs water, stayed late after school to work with a tutor the club had paid for, brought home homework every night and attacked it with a determination that made Diesel's chest tight with something like pride. The nightmares came twice a week, maybe 3 times. Diesel would wake to the sound of Wyatt crying out, would walk down the hall and find him tangled in sheets, eyes open but not seeing, fighting invisible demons in the dark. Diesel learned to wake him gently, to sit on the edge of the bed and talk him down, to stay there until his breathing evened out and sleep came again. They developed routines. Breakfast at 7, school drop-off at 8. Diesel worked at the shop until 4, then picked Wyatt up from the after-school program Cole's old lady ran at the community center. They'd stop at the grocery store on Wednesdays, hit the library on Fridays. Saturday mornings were for the clubhouse, where Wyatt would help Knox in the garage while the brothers worked on bikes and told stories that got bigger every time they were told. Sunday mornings were different. Sunday mornings, Diesel took Wyatt to the cemetery where Johnny was buried. They'd stand at the grave, simple stone, just his name and the years he lived, and the words, "Ride free." And Wyatt would talk to his father. Diesel never asked what he said. Some conversations were private, even between the living and the dead. The custody paperwork was moving forward. Bishop's lawyer, a woman named Garrett, who wore suits that probably cost more than Diesel's bike and didn't blink at the patches or the lifestyle, was confident they could make it work. You've got stable income, a clean record since you were 23, a support system through the club. The home visit went well. Unless the mother gets clean and fights for custody, I think we can get you temporary guardianship, possibly full custody down the line. Lisa Carver sent a letter from rehab.
Diesel read it alone in his truck outside the clubhouse, hands shaking slightly as he unfolded the notebook paper covered in small, careful handwriting. "I know I don't deserve to ask anything from anyone," she wrote. "I know I failed my son in every way a mother can fail, but he's a good kid, the best thing I ever did. If you're taking care of him, if you're keeping him safe, then thank you. Please tell him I love him. Tell him I'm trying. Tell him I'm sorry." Diesel showed the letter to Wyatt that night. The boy read it twice, then folded it carefully and put it in his desk drawer. He didn't cry, didn't say anything, just nodded once and went back to his homework. "You want to write back?" Diesel asked. "Maybe later." "Okay. Whenever you're ready." 2 days before Thanksgiving, Wyatt came home from school with a permission slip for a field trip and a flyer for the winter talent show. He hesitated in the kitchen doorway, holding the papers like they might explode. "What's up?" Diesel asked, looking up from the carburetor he was cleaning at the kitchen table. "The field trip is to the Science Museum. It costs $20. "That's fine." "And the talent show," Wyatt's voice got quieter, "there's a parent-kid category where you perform together. I thought, maybe, if you wanted." Diesel set down the carburetor, giving Wyatt his full attention. "What kind of performance?" "Anything. Some kids are doing magic tricks. Some are singing. I don't know. It's stupid. Forget it." "It's not stupid. What would you want to do?" Wyatt shrugged, still not meeting his eyes. "I can't do anything cool. I can't sing or do magic or play an instrument." Diesel thought for a moment, then an idea struck him. Crazy, probably impossible, but the kind of thing that might work if they pulled it off. "You know how to tell a story?" "What do you mean?" "Come here." Diesel pulled out a chair. Wyatt sat, wary but curious. "In the club, we got a tradition. Every year at the anniversary party, the oldest member tells a story. Could be about a run, a fight, a brother who's gone, but it's got to be true, and it's got to mean something. It's about keeping the memory alive." "I don't have any stories." "Yeah, you do. You got your dad's story, you got your story, you got our story, how we found each other, how we became family." Wyatt's eyes widened. "You want to stand in front of the whole school and talk about motorcycle clubs?" "Why not? It's who we are, and it's a good story. Kid loses his dad, ends up alone, gets found by his dad's brothers, gets taken in, gets a family. That's worth telling. People will think we're weird." "People already think we're weird," Diesel said with a grin. "Might as well own it." Wyatt thought about it, chewing his bottom lip. Then, slowly, he smiled. "Okay, let's do it." They practiced for 2 weeks.
Diesel would tell the first part, how he knew Johnny, what the brotherhood meant, how he found Wyatt shivering beside his bike in the rain. Then Wyatt would take over, what it felt like to be alone, to be unwanted, to think that maybe the world had no place for a kid like him. And together, they'd finish the story. What family meant, how it wasn't always about blood, how sometimes the people who saved you were the ones you least expected. They practiced at the kitchen table, in the truck, at the clubhouse with the brothers as an audience. Knox said it made him cry, which was saying something because Knox had done 3 tours in Iraq without shedding a tear. Cole said it was honest, and honesty was the only thing worth having. Bishop just nodded and said Johnny would be proud. The night of the talent show, Diesel put on his cleanest jeans and a button-up shirt that he had to iron for the first time in 5 years. Wyatt wore the new outfit Cole's old lady had picked out, khakis and a sweater that made him look like a normal kid, though he insisted on wearing the small leather bracelet Knox had made him, the one with the club's symbol stamped into it. The school auditorium was packed. Parents and grandparents and siblings filled the seats, the air thick with perfume and anticipation, and the kind of nervous energy that comes before any performance. Diesel and Wyatt sat backstage with the other acts, watching through the curtain as kids performed magic tricks that didn't quite work and dance routines that were more enthusiasm than skill. When their names were called, Diesel Branson and Wyatt Madsen, they walked onto the stage together. Diesel had expected to be nervous, but the moment he saw the crowd, something settled in his chest. He'd faced scarier things than a bunch of suburban parents. And beside him, Wyatt stood straight and tall, chin up, ready. Diesel started talking. He told them about the life, about the road, about what it meant to be a brother in every sense except biological. He told them about Johnny, not the full truth, not the parts that would make them uncomfortable, but the real parts, the loyalty, the friendship, the way he'd die for his brothers and they'd die for him.
Then he told them about the night he found Wyatt. The rain, the cold, the way the kid had looked at him with eyes that had already given up hope, but were trying one more time anyway. The way those 4 words, "My dad's name was Reaper," had changed everything. He stepped back and Wyatt stepped forward. The boy's voice was small at first, uncertain, but it grew stronger as he spoke. He talked about what it felt like to be abandoned, to sleep under bridges and behind dumpsters, to wonder if anyone in the world cared whether you lived or died. And then he talked about Diesel, about waking up in a warm apartment and being given clothes that fit and food that didn't come from a trash can, about learning that family wasn't just the people who shared your blood, but the people who chose to stand beside you when everyone else walked away. "My dad made a lot of mistakes," Wyatt said, his voice clear now, carrying to every corner of the auditorium. "He wasn't perfect, but he gave me something perfect. He gave me brothers. He gave me people who saw me when I was invisible, who kept me safe when I was scared, who made me believe I was worth something." Diesel put his hand on Wyatt's shoulder, and together they finished the story. They talked about what came next, the custody paperwork, the tutoring sessions, the slowly building trust. They talked about becoming a family, piece by piece, choice by choice. When they finished, the auditorium was silent for a heartbeat. Then someone started clapping.
Then everyone was clapping, and some people were crying, and Diesel looked down at Wyatt and saw the kid smiling, really smiling, for the first time since Diesel had known him. They walked off stage to thunderous applause. Backstage, Mrs. Chen was waiting, mascara smudged where she'd wiped at her eyes. "That was beautiful," she said, "both of you." "Thank you for giving him a chance," Diesel said. "Thank you for giving him a home." They won second place. The first place went to a girl who played Beethoven on the piano, which was fair because she was legitimately incredible. But Wyatt held his ribbon like it was gold, like it was proof that he existed, that he mattered, that his story was worth telling. In the truck on the way home, Wyatt was quiet, but not the heavy kind of quiet, the peaceful kind, the kind that meant he was processing, thinking, letting the night settle into memory. "You did good up there," Diesel said. "You too? You scared?" "Yeah, me too," Diesel grinned. "But we did it anyway. That's what counts." "Diesel? Yeah? Can I call you Dad?" The truck swerved slightly before Diesel got it back under control. He pulled over to the side of the road, put it in park, and turned to look at Wyatt. The boy was watching him carefully, anxiously, ready to take it back if he'd crossed a line. "You sure?" Diesel asked, his voice rough. Wyatt nodded. "If that's okay?" "Yeah," Diesel said, and had to clear his throat because it had suddenly gotten tight. "Yeah, that's more than okay." Wyatt smiled, and Diesel pulled him into a hug right there on the side of the road, holding on to this kid who'd wandered into his life out of rain and desperation, and somehow became the best thing that had happened to him in years. Christmas came cold and clear. The custody hearing was scheduled for January, but Garrett was confident.
Lisa had sent another letter, this one saying she wanted to sign over temporary custody while she finished her program and got her life stable. She wasn't giving up, she said, but she wanted what was best for Wyatt, and right now that meant staying where he was safe and loved. The club threw their annual Christmas party at the clubhouse, and for the first time in years, Diesel brought someone with him. Wyatt moved through the crowd like he belonged there, fist-bumping Knox and stealing cookies from the table Hawk's old lady had made, and challenging Trace to a game of pool that he lost spectacularly, but with good humor. Cole pulled Diesel aside at one point, beer in hand, watching Wyatt laugh at something Mason said. "Kid's doing good." "Yeah," Diesel agreed. "He is. You're doing good too." Diesel shrugged, uncomfortable with praise. "Just trying not to screw it up." "You're doing more than that." Cole took a drink, chose his next words carefully. "Johnny would be proud. And ashamed. Probably both." "I think about that sometimes," Diesel admitted. "About what Johnny would say if he saw this. If he'd be grateful or pissed that I'm cleaning up his mess. Doesn't matter?" "No," Diesel said, and realized it was true. It doesn't. This isn't about Johnny anymore. It's about Wyatt. About getting him the life he deserves. "And you," Cole added. "It's about you too. You're different, Dee. Better." Diesel didn't know what to say to that.
so he just nodded and took a drink, and watched Wyatt across the room. This kid who'd appeared out of nowhere and given him a second chance at something he thought was lost forever. Later, after the party wound down and most of the brothers had headed home, Bishop called Diesel into the chapel. Wyatt was asleep on the couch in the main room, covered with someone's jacket, exhausted from the festivities. "Close the door," Bishop said. Diesel did, then sat down across from the president.
"What's up?" Bishop reached into his vest and pulled out a folded piece of paper. He set it on the table between them. "This came in the mail today, addressed to the club, but meant for you." Diesel unfolded it. The handwriting was shaky but legible, the paper cheap notebook stock. It was from Lisa. "I know I have no right to ask anything from you. I know I failed my son in every way that matters, but I need you to know something. Johnny knew about Wyatt. We fought about it constantly. He wanted to be part of his life, wanted to claim him, wanted to introduce him to the club, but I wouldn't let him. I was using back then, heavy, and I knew if Johnny got involved, he'd try to take Wyatt from me, so I kept them apart. I told Johnny if he tried to see his son, I'd disappear with Wyatt, and he'd never find us. And he believed me. He stayed away because I threatened him, because I was selfish and scared and sick. The guilt of that is something I'll carry forever. But I need you to know, Johnny loved his son. He talked about him all the time when we still communicated. He sent money every month that I spent on drugs instead of Wyatt. He was a good man trapped in a bad situation by a woman who couldn't get clean. If you're taking care of Wyatt now, if you're giving him the life I couldn't, then thank you. Tell him his father loved him. Tell him his father tried. Tell him it was my fault, not his, never his." Diesel read the letter 3 times. Each time he felt something shift in his chest. Anger at Lisa for keeping father and son apart. Grief for Johnny, who died carrying secrets he couldn't share. Relief that the story was more complicated than simple abandonment. "You gonna tell the kid?" Bishop asked. "Yeah," Diesel said, "but not yet. Let him settle in first. Let him believe he's wanted. Then, when he's stronger, I'll show him this. He deserves to know his dad tried. And Lisa, she's trying too. Maybe she'll make it, maybe she won't. But either way, Wyatt's got a home now."
"He's got family. That won't change." Bishop nodded slowly. "You know what you're doing, D. I'm proud of you. The whole club is." "He's got family. That won't change." Bishop nodded slowly. "You know what you're doing, D. I'm proud of you. The whole club is." "I'm just—" "Don't." Bishop cut him off. "Don't downplay this. You stepped up when nobody else could. You're raising a kid who needed someone, and you're doing it right. That matters. In our world, with our lives, that matters more than anything." Diesel swallowed hard, feeling emotions he wasn't used to dealing with. "Thanks, Prez." "Thank me by not screwing it up." Bishop smiled to take the edge off the words. "Now get that kid home. It's late." January brought rain and paperwork, and a hearing in family court that lasted 3 hours. Diesel wore a suit that Knox had loaned him, sat at a table with Garrett while a judge reviewed documents and asked questions, and studied him with eyes that had seen every kind of human behavior. Lisa appeared via video call from the rehab facility. She looked healthier than Diesel expected, clear-eyed, clean, her hair pulled back in a neat ponytail. She answered the judge's questions honestly, admitted her failures, explained that she wanted her son to stay with Diesel until she could prove she was stable, could maintain sobriety, could be the mother Wyatt deserved. The judge asked Diesel about his income, his living situation, his support system. He asked about the motorcycle club, didn't dance around it, just came right out and asked if Diesel's association with an MC would put Wyatt in danger. "No, ma'am," Diesel said firmly. "The club is family. They're the reason I can do this at all. They've donated clothes and furniture and time. They've helped with tutoring and transportation and teaching Wyatt what it means to have people who show up for you. If anything, being part of the club makes me a better guardian, not worse." The judge made notes, asked more questions, looked at photos of Diesel's apartment, letters of recommendation from Cole's old lady who ran the community center, from Mrs. Chen, from the shop owner where Diesel worked, who called him the most reliable employee he'd ever had. In the end, she granted temporary custody, 6 months, with a review at that point. If things were stable, if Wyatt was thriving, if Lisa was still in treatment and doing well, they'd revisit. But for now, officially, legally, Wyatt Madsen was in the care of Diesel Branson. They celebrated at the clubhouse that night. Wyatt wore his second-place ribbon from the talent show pinned to his shirt. The brothers toasted with beer and soda, told stories, welcomed Wyatt into the family in the way they welcomed all important people, with acceptance, protection, and an unspoken promise that they'd be there, no matter what. Diesel watched from the bar, beer in hand, and felt something he hadn't felt in longer than he could remember. Peace. Not the absence of problems, but the presence of purpose. The knowledge that he was doing something that mattered, that every choice he made from here forward had weight and meaning. Cole come up beside him, leaned against the bar. "How you feeling, Dad?" Diesel laughed, the sound surprising even to himself. "Terrified, but good, really good. Kid's lucky to have you." "I'm lucky to have him," Diesel corrected. "He gave me a reason to be better, to try harder, to remember what all this is supposed to be about." "And what's that?" "Taking care of each other, being there when it matters, choosing family every day, not just when it's easy." Cole raised his beer. "To family." Diesel clinked bottles with him. "To family." Across the room, Wyatt was laughing at something Hawk said, his whole face lit up in a way that made him look like the kid he should have been all along. Safe, happy, home. Spring came with wildflowers and longer days and a rhythm that felt almost normal. Wyatt's grades improved. He made honor roll in March, brought home a certificate that Diesel hung on the refrigerator like it was a masterpiece.
The nightmares came less frequently. The walls came down, piece by piece, until Wyatt talked about his feelings without Diesel having to pry, laughed without checking first to see if it was okay, asked for things he wanted instead of just accepting whatever was given. They took a ride together in April, Diesel on his shovelhead and Wyatt on the back, holding on tight as they cruised through the foothills east of Sacramento. They stopped at an overlook where you could see the whole valley spread out below, all gold and green and endless. "You think my mom's gonna make it?" Wyatt asked, looking out at the view. "I think she's trying," Diesel said carefully. "But trying doesn't always mean succeeding. You gotta be ready for both possibilities." "If she doesn't make it, can I stay with you?" "Yeah, for as long as you want. This is your home now, Wyatt. No matter what happens with your mom, you've got a place here." "And if she does make it, if she gets clean and wants me back?" Diesel took a breath, chose his words carefully. "Then we'll figure it out. Maybe you split time between us. Maybe you live with her but visit me on weekends. Maybe something else. But you'll still be my son. You got that? A piece of paper might say different, but in here," he tapped his chest, "you're mine. Nothing changes that." Wyatt nodded, blinking fast against tears that might have been from the wind or might have been from something deeper. "I love you, Dad." It was the first time he'd said it out loud. Diesel felt the words hit him like a physical force, like getting tackled, like coming home after years on the road. He pulled Wyatt into a hug, right there on the side of the mountain, with the wind whipping around them and the world spread out below. "I love you too, kid. More than I knew was possible." They stood there for a while, father and son, bound not by blood, but by choice and circumstance, and the kind of love that has to be earned and built and protected. Then they got back on the bike and rode home, the engine rumbling beneath them, the highway stretching ahead like a promise. The 6-month review came in July. Garrett presented documentation showing that Wyatt was excelling in school, had gained 15 pounds of healthy weight, had no behavioral issues, and was seeing a therapist weekly who reported significant progress in processing his trauma. Diesel's apartment had been inspected again, his finances reviewed, his background checked for the 3rd time. Lisa appeared via video again, this time from a halfway house in Redding. She'd completed the 90-day program and was now working at a grocery store, attending NA meetings daily, rebuilding her life one small step at a time.
She still wanted Wyatt back eventually, she said, but she was realistic. She knew it would take time, knew she had to prove herself, knew that her son's stability had to come before her own desires. The judge granted full custody to Diesel, with visitation rights for Lisa once she completed the halfway house program and could demonstrate 6 months of continuous sobriety. They'd revisit in another 6 months, but for now, Wyatt was Diesel's son in every way that mattered. That night, Diesel took Wyatt to the cemetery. They stood at Johnny's grave as the sun set, painting the sky orange and gold. Diesel pulled out Lisa's letter, the one explaining what had really happened, why Johnny had stayed away. "I got something to show you," Diesel said. "Something your mom sent a while back. I waited because I wanted you to be ready, but I think you are now." Wyatt read the letter slowly, lips moving slightly as he worked through the words. When he finished, he folded it carefully and looked up at his father. "He loved me?" "Yeah, kid, he did. He just didn't know how to fight for you without making things worse. So he sent money, and he thought about you, and he kept you in his heart even when he couldn't keep you in his life."
I wish I'd known him. Me too. But you know me, and you know the brothers. And in a way, you know him through us. Through the stories we tell, the values we live by, the family he helped build. Wyatt nodded, then knelt down and touched the gravestone. "Hey, Dad," he said quietly. "It's me, Wyatt. I just wanted to say, I get it now. I understand why things happened the way they did. And I forgive you. I forgive you for not being there, because you left me something better. You left me brothers. You left me Diesel. You left me a family." Diesel's throat went tight. He put his hand on Wyatt's shoulder and squeezed gently, letting the kid have his moment, his peace, his closure. When Wyatt stood up, his eyes were dry. He looked at Diesel and said, "Let's go home." "Yeah," Diesel agreed. "Let's go home." Autumn came around again, marking a full year since that night in the rain. Diesel and Wyatt stood in the parking lot of the Crossroads Diner on a Thursday in late October. Same time, same place, both of them looking at the spot where their lives had intersected and changed forever. "Hard to believe it's been a year," Diesel said. "Feels longer," Wyatt said. "In a good way, like I've been with you forever. Some families like that. You meet them and it just fits." They walked inside and sat in the back booth, same booth where the brothers still gathered every Thursday. Cole was there, and Hawk and Mason. Knox and Trace had joined them. Bishop sat at the head of the table, and when he saw Diesel and Wyatt, he smiled. "There's our people," Bishop said. "Grab some coffee, take a seat." Wyatt poured coffee for both of them. He'd gotten good at it over the past year, learned to make it exactly how Diesel liked it, and they slid into the booth. The conversation flowed around them, stories and laughter, and the easy comfort of people who'd been through hell together and come out the other side. At one point, Bishop raised his mug.
"I want to make a toast," he said, and the table went quiet. "To family. Not the kind you're born into, but the kind you build. The kind you choose. The kind that shows up when you're shivering in a parking lot with nowhere to go and says, 'You're one of us now.'" Everyone raised their mugs. "To family," they echoed. Diesel looked at Wyatt, who was grinning, who looked healthy and happy and whole. He thought about all the ways their lives could have gone different, all the chances they could have missed each other. But they hadn't. Somehow, through rain and loss, and the kind of luck that felt like something more than luck, they'd found each other. "Hey, Dad," Wyatt said quietly. "Yeah? Thank you. For everything. For not giving up on me." Diesel reached over and ruffled his hair. "Never gonna happen, kid. You're stuck with me." "Good," Wyatt said, and his smile was brighter than any sunrise Diesel had ever seen on the open road. Outside, the bikes lined up like always, chrome gleaming under the parking lot lights. The wind carried the smell of rain, but the sky was clear. Inside, the brothers drank coffee and told stories, and lived the code they'd sworn to uphold: loyalty, family, brotherhood. And in the middle of it all, a man who'd found redemption and a boy who'd found home sat side by side. Proof that sometimes the best families aren't born, they're built, one choice at a time.
one ride at a time, one moment of not looking away when someone needs you most. The engines would roar again tomorrow. The road would call as it always did. But tonight, they were exactly where they needed to be. Together, safe, and finally, after everything, home.